Hi everyone, my name is Fatma Sami, and I worked as the co-director, director of photography, editor, art director, and I was also in charge of the hair and makeup on set for our project, How We Lost Ourselves. Today I'm joined by my team partner, Sireynna Rana, and her roles were
Hi, yeah, my roles were the writer, the co-director, as well as the actress and the person who started our scenes, worked a little bit on editing, as well as the person who also got our co-stars of Hidmasi.
right. So Sireynna, I have you here with me today because I want to talk about how we challenge certain conventions, how we incorporated certain conventions, and the social representation and
Yeah, we did a lot of these things. Like we worked on, what was it? We used three conventions in the first character introduction, right?
yeah. So we used our character introduction as the enigma introduction as well, right? So we introduced her as the enigma of the plot. We It wasn't like a murder mystery. You right away understand that she is the person behind it, but you have to work out the reason why she exactly did it, right? And
That we
we
established
move
that,
more
yeah.
into yeah, we move more into that. We lean more into that side of the plot as the scene goes on. Right. So I think that we used mime as well in this, right? So we used
Yeah, definitely.
three conventions. So it was a lot of acting without speaking, delivering a lot of emotion, and even delivering how the theme and the genre and the setting is in the first scene, the introduction, the post murder, basically.
hmm
I think that's a huge thing we did in juggling a lot of conventions and trying to get that right without making it look too messy.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree, right? Because we have, I think even in our whole idea of using even semiotics and everything, right? We try to really use communication, have different signs and everything. Like our main,
The lighting,
yeah,
how we
that comes
use
down to
the
our being on set,
flashing.
right? That like how we kind of organize the set and everything that came down to, and oh, I love the dramatization that we had with like everything with like the red with the post murder scenes that we had. But for the first opening
Yeah.
scene, yeah, definitely we used three different conventions, and the whole idea that I think behind that is that it's we really go into this whole art because you understand, yes, okay, that you have a character who's done something bad, done something wrong, but you also see this character as someone like you want to know why did this happen, like why is it starting like this, you kind of give away the answer instantly, and then that's the whole thing. Murder mysteries, like you said, they consistently take you on this journey of just finding out what the answer is, but we start off in the answer, and I think that's what makes it really interesting.
I agree. And we set a lot of the tone with our lighting and our sound. So
Yeah,
in the
definitely.
post production we used rain, and then we used the police sirens, and then
Yeah,
we
yeah,
fade that into the heartbeat, and the heartbeat is supposed to be his heartbeat, and then it just flatlines, and that's supposed to be
yeah,
a
yeah.
giveaway for how he dies, and I think that was very interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember because okay, so since it's a creative, critical reflection, I remember whenever I was thinking about the sound. So Freddie was the one who like edited all the audio, which I have no idea how they literally learned it in one night, all of this. So for this whole thing in terms of direction and writing, I thought a lot about this perspective in terms of having how can you really enhance the scene, and I thought a lot about this thing in terms of what sounds to use. And for the first scene, we used rain because I thought that would really bring in the idea of like, especially with the music that we picked as well, has rain in the background plus
Yeah.
the idea of the police sirens as well, the establishment that something's gone wrong, the lights as well reflecting on her, and then lastly the flat line. Okay, so before that we had this idea that we were going to have a monologue, but we didn't have the time nor the resources to kind of execute that. But then it hit me. Oh my god, a flat line which can represent his life. So there was a lot I think that kind of really went into establishing the tone for a movie. So yeah. We also had other conventions though. We had conventions like mental illness and like a social issue that we tried to represent, right?
Yeah, like a warped sense of how they viewed each other and
Uh-huh.
how that translated into their relationship, and how we basically delivered that on screen
As
through
well as
all
domestic
of these other
violence and
conventions.
toxicity in relationships, emotional
Yes.
unavailability as well. There's so much that I think like then the social issues that we were targeting were mainly based on this idea of like I think yeah, toxic
A toxic
relationships,
relation,
yeah,
yeah, a
and
toxic
abusive.
relationship, and exactly like an abusive toxic relationship, and it's a very open-ended kind of interpretation to why it is a toxic and
Oh
abusive
yeah,
relationship,
definitely.
because you see such a polar opposite between like the flashback and the fight scene, right?
Oh
The
yeah, it's such
real
a
time
contrast.
and the past, right? And I love how you you just like everyone has a different interpretation of their relationship, why they are still together. Probably it's because it's a facade for his career, his public view, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe it's because of their codependency, or maybe it's because of social stigmas. So it's because it's an opening sequence and it's not a film, not all the answers are given to you straight away, right?
That's what
So I
keeps
think
the
that was
audience
also,
more
that was an
intrigued.
interesting play.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially in the aspect when we talk about abuse, like like in this idea of like being an abusive relationship. One of the things I loved about the project is that we don't tackle this very typical form of physical abuse. We look at it in verbal abuse. Like we see him screaming at her, her screaming at him threatening physical abuse. But the idea is, regardless, it's still abuse, and that's I think one of the biggest social issues they're going against
The
because
mental
so
torment that they
exactly
both went
it's not
through.
talked about enough. I
Yeah.
think it's less you have
Yeah,
like
I
images or
agree.
something that kind of really shows something bad's happened. And even on with that, we don't have that much awareness about these things. But like verbal abuse is very much sometimes just looked over, but that's what something we really wanted to talk about and really
And I think what made
our
the
audience
fight scene
aware.
even more, yeah, I think what made the fight scene even more powerful was how the flashback really
Oh
gave it
yeah.
a lot of
As well as
grounding, you
the
know?
improv in that, right?
Oh, yeah, the improv in the fight scene,
Yeah, yeah,
you
the
were the
improv is
actor,
really
so you
good.
would know more about that. It was a
Mm-hmm.
very intense scene. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So definitely, I feel like I'd have to go to therapy after that because it was insane. Like
It was a
we
very
were,
intense scene.
it was
Yeah, we had to
so
film that like
intense.
we had
Oh,
to
our
film that
co-star was
multiple
crying.
times.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was
We had
a
to
lot.
refilm that so many times
Oh
because it
yeah.
didn't look
Imagine
right, or
putting
it didn't.
all of your anger and frustration to the point of nearly at tears, and then there's dead
Or
silence, and then they goes through it again.
there would always be hugging at the end of it.
Oh yeah, it was really intense, and a lot of it came down to improv. The basic the structure of the scene that we like the whole opening sequence. I had established that way before. Like I remember even approaching Freddie for the project and everything like that, and we kind of finalized that this is the idea we're going to make our final project revolve around. And so a lot of it did come down to improv in the sense that we were both really familiar with the concept and idea because we had so many
Yeah,
meetings
because you guys were familiar with the concept, the
and a
script,
lot
so
of
you
trust,
could
I
go
think,
off of
between
that.
us.
And it felt so natural when you guys did improv rather than when you went with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
scripted lines. Because I remember in the beginning when you guys went with the scripted lines, it just did not have the same feel.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that's why we had to refilm a couple of times. And by the end of it, because you had done it so many times, it felt like second nature, that fighting.
Definitely.
And because you were the writer and you also were the actor, you could understand where that character comes from.
Oh yeah, like when we
So
sorry, yeah.
yeah. No, no, go ahead.
Yeah, so I do definitely think there's a lot that came down to this whole improv aspect of it because I feel so much of it became like, first of all, I think the three of us were in sync, in everything we were. There was so much trust between it. Like,
Yeah, the
in terms of
BTS and on
exactly
screen, the
every
chemistry between all of us.
yeah, exactly, right? Like even with our co-stars Zohaib and everything, we were able to just emote and like Fatma could tell us exactly what they wanted us to do and exactly how they wanted it as well. And I could kind of talk about the general concept of the scene, how we wanted to establish that. And then we were able to transcribe that on shooting and we tried it in so many different ways. And like Zohaib was actually very, very cooperative, like, for someone who had nothing to do with the project. So yeah, there was a lot that we kind of put into the project and everything, especially in terms of trying to portray conventions like our mind, like
Yeah.
improv, mental illness, our social issue as well that we're really going into.
And the fact that this isn't even a fantasy or this isn't a sci-fi thing, right? It's a reality. So
It's
I think that's
real,
also
yeah.
something that really, yeah, I think that's what makes it a little more scary or just a little more real in that sense,
Oh
because
yeah, definitely.
it's a very real thing, but it's also a very taboo topic, like domestic abuse and like toxic partnerships. It's not spoken about enough, and how it drives people to very polarizing ends, right? It's a very fatal end to their relationship. It's a
Desperation.
very devastating end, right? It's desperation,
And you
exactly.
feel that, you really do, especially because the flashbacks and
And you
everything,
feel
like
for
you
both of
see
the
it in them.
characters. The flashbacks give them so much of a character and gives their relationship, you understand why they are still together, and you understand their love, but you understand why they hate each other as well because
Which
of the
is
fight scene.
illustrated through the dialogue that they consistently repeat to each other, right? So there's a lot to kind of
And even though the love shots, they don't have the montage, it doesn't have dialogue, it's just mime
exactly, which is what
again,
in mind,
right?
yeah.
Exactly. And it's just like rapid flashes of them, and also how we have parallels in our
Oh yeah.
love shots, and then in our like so there was a scene in the post sorry, in the love shots, right, where you're burning the pictures, right,
Yeah.
and that's real time. But then there's also you and Zohaib on the terrace where you guys are facing each other, and it's a love
Exactly.
shot, but it's the same terrace, right, and then the facing each other, like the rapid ending of the love
We
shots.
worked a
And
lot on
then when
that.
you're right, and like it's a parallel to where you guys are screaming in each other's faces, but it's a very different emotion, and it's a very different setting and environment,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and
I
it's a very
feel
different
like
interaction.
oh yeah, there's so much that comes down to it. Like I feel like honestly, location had such a huge role in it. Like I think we made
Yeah,
actually the most efficient use out of every location that we had. Like there wasn't a single
yeah.
square inch of any room that we had not used, and we had tried everything. And we had shot from cameras to like phones and everything, and like various different techniques. And tried. We even like Freddie bought a
Even the
tripod, like a
lighting,
gimbal.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
even with
we had
the
a broken
lighting,
ring light
so
that we're using. Oh, and we carried a laptop with it so that we could power
even
it.
even the huge light we were using for the burning scene
Yes,
and the final scene where you have the gun, where we have the gun reveal, we
top
had
gun.
two lights, and I was filming that on the ledge,
Oh yeah.
and we had a
We're
pan
totally
out,
into
so
the
that was also
suspense as
very
well.
interesting. But
Yeah.
but the lighting and everything, it's red, right, it's revenge, it's you taking your power back in
Oh, yeah.
that
Lighting
scene,
was
right,
such a huge thing.
and
Yeah.
we have red flashing even during the love shots where you show each other, where we show you guys are in love and everything, but then it also ends with you in the red lighting, where
Oh,
it's you taking
definitely.
your power back, right, it's like you basking in that glory of revenge of some
Oh,
sort,
yeah,
right.
definitely. You know what, Padma? I actually really think that so much of this, like our consistent theme of like utilizing reality, trying to have that as something that really grounds the project. I would say, right? This whole perspective that we've taken forward, we can really think about it. I think the lighting, since it's so dramatic, really brings that. I think it adds
We
like
use a
flair
lot
to
of
the
dramatic
project.
and
Yeah, we
chiaroscuro
use it like and
lighting.
we use it to enhance reality and everything like that, and to
Yeah,
really like imagine if that lighting was done in like gray lighting, like normal lighting like that. Like it
yeah.
wouldn't have had that same effect, even if we did the same thing with the murder scene. I like that we were able to take that leap and everything like that. But this is, I think, what covers our project. I think we
Even
just
the sound, so Sireynna basically found the sound for
oh yeah.
our love shots. And do you want to talk about that, because I feel like that has a big part
Oh
about in our project. Yeah,
the okay, so I remember this whole project, this idea that came to me. It was 2020 summer, and sorry, 2021 summer, and I was listening to music, and then I was just about to fall asleep, and this song turned on that was in my playlist, and I just thought of a whole project to it. And this is the and I told them first that I want to use this song, and then I made Fatma listen to it, and we loved it, and then we were able to kind of take it forward, and we used it, and that was a really big thing in terms of rhythmic editing, the different types of ways that we had, and like everything
yeah.
revolved around this
I was sold
song.
on the song the first time you made me listen to it, and when you described your idea, I loved it.
Oh yeah, I
Even
feel
though
like we did a
from the
really good
first
job.
time
I feel.
from the first time from our initial vision, it changed a lot
Oh
because we had
yes, so
to
much.
figure out how it works with our setting and our theme and with our characters, and so many other variables in our project. But I think we kind of did justice to this sound.
Oh yeah, definitely. I
Plus,
think so as
yeah.
well.
Lastly, I would like to talk about
The title?
the title and how we came up with that, and how it like
Oh, that was an
fits
insane day. Do you
this.
remember? Yeah. We were like, okay, so we had this whole premiere with our friends as well, which we did before we showed to our school, and it was like in 2 days' time we had to submit our project, and we didn't have a title. Every single thing was done, and we had a lot of issues with one of our team partners as well, and then everything kind of blew up at once, and we worked consistently until the last day. We took advantage of every single second that we had. We barely slept. So anyway, 2 days before that, we kind of sat down together and we just started listing down ideas and stuff like that. We sat in Padma's washroom at like 4 a.m. just thinking of ideas. And finally, at the end, like on the day of the premiere, we made our actor come and just like pick between two, and we went with How We Lost Ourselves because we really kind of felt like
And
it
I think
carried
I
more.
think yeah, I think because this is not a film and it's an opening sequence, you see the journey of how they lose themselves, right? And what are they? It because they were a unit. When you see the love shots, you see them as a unit. You see them as one. You see them as people who are just
Yeah,
in
yeah.
love, and and don't see people around them. So that was also a huge thing while shooting,
You
right?
only
We
have
didn't want
two
other people
characters.
around.
Yeah.
So because it was also from like a sense of, like, from her point of view, because when she was in love, when he was in love, they only saw each other, and that is how it is when you are in love, right? You only see that
The
person, and the
infatuation
rest
of
of
the
the
person.
world, right? It's vibrant, it's beautiful, everything. Like we shot in places that weren't very beautiful, but we did try to like bring it out with lighting and editing, and then like
Oh yeah, definitely.
color grading, right? So that was also like her imagination. So you go from that to the fight scene, right, where you hate this person, you don't want to live with that person. So it's losing that part of yourself, and then
Yeah, definitely.
actually losing him because she kills him. So I think that also really fits into our theme, you
Mm,
know.
110%. I do think. I just think this whole entire project. I feel like we did take really good use out of our resources and our conventions, and we merged it all together and we consistently thought of them. And I think that's what really guided us throughout the project to ensure that we had these conventions within our project.
I agree.
Yeah.